Hey, Sydney.
Hey, Samuel.
I unfortunately have some bad news for you this episode.
All right. What is it?
So, due to some creeping overhead concerns and your recent demands for an increase in salary, we are going to have to let you go from the satire fire and replace you with a robot.
Is it Chat GPT? Is it Gemini? Who's gonna be taking my place?
Honestly, it doesn't matter. I know you can't spell strawberry, so any of them will be a perfect replacement for you.
I'm glad you're here on this Sunday. I'm going to get right into the message. I'm going to tell it like it is, as they say. Oh, I heard a hallelujah. Did you think I don't know what the hell is going on? And a lot of strange places. Where in the hell have you been? Hell, fire! Hell, fire! Hell, fire! All right. Okay, there's something else, too.
Hello and welcome to the Satire Fire podcast, your number one source for actual human created content on the podcastosphere. I am your host, Samuel.
And I'm Sydney.
And this week we are starting our series on the Kurt Vonnegut novel, Player Piano. If you are... Go ahead.
Kurt's back. We love him. Woo!
Guess who's back again? If you are new to our podcast, we are a podcast that is all about satire, specifically satirical novels, and the way that the podcast works is each satirical book that we cover gets broken into 3 parts. Part 1, which is what you're listening to right now, covers the plot of the book in question. So this is if you haven't read it before or if it's been a while and you want to get caught up. We're going to tell you everything that you need to know in order to be able to understand what the book is about. The second part, which we're going to do next week, talks about the historical context of the book. One of the big parts about satire that can sometimes make it a little bit challenging to confront is that it typically is referencing or is written in relation to contemporary events at the point of time in which it was written. So our job for part 2 is to do the research into those historical events, let you know what was going on at the time period in which it was written, so that you understand why the author was concerned about whatever the problems are in the book. Which leads us to part 3, where we put all those things together. We analyze and interpret the book, talk about, is it still relevant in a modern day setting? Is it still something that we need to consider? Is it a good book or is it not a good book? And then proceed to add it to our ever-expanding ranking of every satirical book ever written. But that will be in 2 weeks from now. Right now, what we are concerned about is the plot of Player Piano. But before we get concerned about the plot of Player Piano, Sydney, have you been reading, watching, doing, or thinking anything lately that you wanted to talk about?
Thinking. Tell you all my musings. No, I did want to talk about something I did, well, on the night that we're recording this podcast. By the time you're listening to this, it's been over a week. So, but I made something. I cooked. I was a chef for the first time in my life, and that was risotto. I made risotto, guys. I know.
Fuck yeah.
Wow.
Are we rocking that J. Kenji Lopez all perfect risotto no stir recipe? Because you know I fuck with J. Kenji Lopez alt.
I definitely stirred nonstop. But no, I think that like Gordon Ramsay will be contacting me soon. I'm really expecting lots of accolades. But yeah, I made a risotto. It did take me like I mean, it takes a long time. Like, if you're going to make risotto, carve out an evening. Because, like... But I think it turned out pretty well. I think it was a little thicker than I was hoping for. I don't know if I put too much butter or if I didn't put enough chicken broth. I'm not really sure. Never made it before. I also, like, don't cook. Like, I don't cook like that. Like, it's just not... And so... But anyways, I just wanted to brag. It was still really, really scrumptious. I put a white wine, so I did do the white wine reduction. That's kind of optional depending on like who you are as a person. If you don't drink, then maybe you don't want to have a bottle of wine because you barely use any of it. And so, but I did do the white wine reduction, which I like that part because it smells really good. As it's but yeah, that's not a lot. I didn't have a lot to say about it. I just wanted everyone to know that I made a risotto. And I think that it could be, I'd maybe give it like a 6 out of 10 just because it was definitely too thick. But
yeah. So I make risotto probably once a month or so.
Oh, okay, I didn't know you
I make it more often in the fall because it's very much a like heavy, starchy winter
heavy.
kind of a food. I like to make it with duck and then make like a red wine sauce. I think that they go super well together.
That's cool. I just did like a chicken sausage on the side.
Oh yeah. I would highly recommend, both for you and the listeners out there, that is a serious recommendation. Look up J. Kenji Lopez Alt, who writes a lot for the company, I guess, Serious Eats. He has a recipe for no stir risotto.
That's crazy.
And it is a little bit more involved of like, you have to rinse the starch off of the rice into the chicken broth that you're going to use. Then you cook the rice normally, and then you add in the chicken broth, and then it thickens as soon as you add in the chicken broth. So you don't actually have to like sit there and baby it. It's more like making regular rice, where you're going to stir it like maybe 2 or 3 times until you're putting the cheese in at the end. Then you've got to stir it a lot, which makes sense. But big shout, J. Kenji Lopez Alt. He also wrote the cookbook, The Food Lab, and I use that shit constantly.
Is do you put like a vegetable in your? I put peas, green peas in mine, but do you usually
sometimes I will buy dried mushrooms and put that in there and let them rehydrate while it's cooking at the very very end. But typically I just make it straight. I don't add anything else to it.
I'd also never, I'm outing myself as not really a chef as we go on, but I'd never like purchased a shallot before. Like I'd never like,
wow,
like
the queen
chopped
of the
a
Alamos.
shallot. Yeah, I mean, I've had shallots in my household, but I wasn't the one doing the cooking. So
damn.
Yeah.
You've heard it here first. If you're looking for a housewife, move to the next podcast.
It's not me, guys. I'm the trophy wife, not the housewife. I'll talk to you about a satirical novel, but I won't be chopping a shallot.
Well, I have a book that is not a satirical book that I wanted to talk about. This is the one that I gave you the option of hearing about last week, but we opted to hear about the album Heavy Metal instead. So this week, I'm talking about the Dolly Alderton book, Good Material.
I want to read that. Yeah. Okay.
So, those who are unfamiliar, Good Material is following a couple that is just broken up. It is a man who is a struggling comedian and then a woman who is quickly on the rise in a much more corporate career. They break up and you're following the man as he's kind of like navigating the emotions that he's having throughout this breakup and relitigating the relationship that they had to himself and experiencing ups and downs as he just tries to make his world make sense again after he just spent, I want to say it's like 8 years or so. Like, it's a really long time that they were in a relationship before breaking up. Here's my take. Because that's what we've all tuned in for.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good, but it's not great. I think the reason for that, for me, is because it comes off very much as a book written for someone who is either currently going through a breakup or who has never gone through a breakup that they learned something from. Because it's kind of just the characters going through what I would consider to be a regular breakup for the first time. And they're having to come to the realization of, wait a second, I think my girlfriend was a human person, and maybe she broke up with me not because she's wanting to date another guy, but because that's just what she wanted to do at that time, and that's okay for people to not want to date you. And it's like funny at points, and it's interesting. Like, I didn't put it down and stop reading it because it was boring or anything, but it just, I feel, is lacking in the emotional messaging and storytelling, by which I mean, if you are an emotionally mature person who can handle a breakup or has handled a breakup in the past, I think you'll read this and go, man, maybe I should have read this when I was 16 before I really crashed out hard because my first girlfriend broke up with me.
So you wouldn't recommend it? Or you would? Or you...
I think if the plot and the concept sound interesting, then it's worth reading. Because it's not bad, and what it tells you it's going to be is exactly what it is. But if either you need a book to have a deeper and more profound emotional impact for you to enjoy it, or if the plot does not sound interesting to you, then this isn't one that I would say, oh, you've got to read it anyways. Like, it's not one that I would say, oh, this is for everyone, you should give it a shot even if you are hesitant about it. It's more of a, like, read it if you think you would like it.
Do you feel like you maybe, like, weren't the intended audience, or is it not an audience issue? Is it more
No,
of a...
I think that it's very much I was not the intended audience, but I think that the intended audience might have been people who are more emotionally insecure or less emotionally competent. Not to say that I'm the most emotionally well-regulated person in the world.
Better than everyone. You heard it here.
But I can handle... I see other people as full human beings, and I feel like that's kind of the point.
It maybe seems like a little emotionally immature. That's what you're saying. Like...
Or it's speaking to someone who is, because the characters very much are. The characters are very much emotionally immature, and the book is following them as they gain maturity. So if you go into the book and you're already at the point of having maturity, then you're just kind of watching them catch up with where you are, as opposed to following them as they lead you to a mature destination.
You know, like, I can't remember what the book was called, but there's a content creator, like a YouTuber that I watch, who read a book that was like a YAWLW, almost romance, but kind of more coming of age type thing. And she was like, I think I would have really liked this when I was in high school. But as a 25-year-old, or how, I think she's about 25, I just it didn't connect with me at all. It didn't. I'm far past this point of emotional maturity. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not an indictment on the book. I don't think that it's a bad book. It's just for a very specific audience that I am not part of.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Good to know. Because I wanted, that one was on my list because I had seen people who like Sally Rooney
Oh.
be into Dolly
That,
Alderton.
if I'm being so for real with you, I spent the whole book thinking to myself, she wishes she could be Sally Rooney so bad.
Oh no. Yeah, okay. So people are like trying to get the high that they feel from Sally Rooney, but they just aren't.
It
quite
feels
there.
like it could be an intro drug to Sally Rooney, where I think that Sally Rooney is more complex
Yeah.
than this kind of a book. So like you read this and then you're ready to maybe grapple with something that's going on in a Sally Rooney book.
That's funny. Okay.
But let's talk about a different kind of breakup book, a book in which human labor is being broken up from the economy. Let's talk about Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. So, Player Piano is... I don't want to get too much into context because that's what that's what next week's episode is about. But I think that there's some things that are worth pointing out, which is this is Kurt Vonnegut's first book, and so it's very different than a lot of his other books. He's very much known for like short chapters, quippy stuff. This is like a lot more traditional, quote unquote, science fiction.
I like how the two Kurt Vonnegut books we've chosen to cover thus far on this podcast are one that's like structurally very different and one that's like thematically very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been like, let's
and
do
both,
these weird books.
Yeah, we've covered the books that are bracketing the portion of his career that would be defined as like this is what Kurt Vonnegut's about.
Yeah.
But the book is following a couple of different people in a near future alternative history United States of America, in which World War III happened, and in order to keep the country running during World War III while all the boys were off at war, they had to automate basically all of their factories. Every factory that was producing stuff, instead of using manpower, had to start using automated machine power. And then, when the war ended and everybody came back home, the people who owned the factories were like, well, damn, why would we ever hire all of these people back? We've just got robots doing it for free at this point. And that is the point at which we are entering the story, is the world is run by factories with robots, and it's very much a highly divided class structure. You've got, on one side, the engineers and the managers, who are the people responsible for thinking up and building and maintaining the automated factories. On the other side, you've got all of the workers who no longer really have jobs. We'll touch on it briefly, I'm pretty sure, but people will spend some time serving for like the army or like a public works corps where they're maintaining roads. And then some people have highly specialized jobs that a computer can't automate. I think they specifically talk about like cab drivers or the bartender or preachers. And like those are the few kinds of careers that we see that are taking place on the labor side of the city, which I guess is a good point in time to bring up. This is all taking place in Ilium, New York, where the entire city has basically been divided in half by the Iroquois River. One side of the river is where the machines are, one side is where the out-of-work people are, and they rarely do the twain meet. I think that's a good spot for us to get into characters. Do you think that there's any other context that you'd like to give for the like where we find our intrepid cast?
In order to like determine whether you're going to be the elite engineers or the kind of sort of working class people, you have to take an intelligence test.
Yeah. It's very like SAT coded or like college placement exam. When you get to a certain age, you take a test. The results are interpreted by a computer, and the computer either says, nope, you're dumb as rocks, go and live with the poor people, or hey, this one's pretty smart, you get to go to college and become either an engineer or a manager, or generally both of them. A lot of the characters, basically every character that is on the rich side of the river is a doctor, and so they're all going to be Dr. So-and-so. Which brings us to our main character, Dr. Paul Proteus, who is the manager of the Ilium Works, the like main production facility in the city. And he is making his way through town, walking fast, faces past. He's homebound. He is up for promotion, potentially. And his wife, Anita Proteus, is very, very interested in him getting that promotion. The main rival for that job is going to be Dr. Shepard.
Weirdly, I think maybe just the name Paul, but I kept thinking of like Paul Allen versus Pat Bateman.
Yeah,
in like
very
these like
much.
Stupid jobs. Mm-hmm. Like one, yeah.
The other, I would say, main person that I wanted to mention is Ed Finnerty, who is a friend of Paul's. He moved away not too long ago to get a job in Washington, D.C., which is like the main central hub. If you're a good enough manager or engineer, you get to work in Washington, D.C. There's other people. We'll potentially get to them. Is there any other specific character you want to make a note of?
No. I mean, the Paul Allen comparison was like Dr. Shepard, like Paul's like promotion rival, but like that's not important to the story.
So the only other thing that I was going to mention is that there is a secondary plot that kind of slowly goes throughout the entire book that I'm not really going to talk about, because I think all of it is really summed up in this one exchange, which I'm going to send to you, Sydney, for you to read. What you need to know going into this is that the secondary plot is this foreign official, this foreign dignitary that is visiting America. Is like you're seeing throughout the book various points at which he is interacting with American people and is trying to get an understanding of American culture, and they're kind of showing him off, and he kind of is put there to illustrate the point that Vonnegut is trying to make, which we're definitely going to get more into later on. But I feel like this specific scene really tells you all that you need to know as to what those interactions look like.
We've raised the standard of living of the average man immensely. Cash drawer stopped translating and frowned perplexedly. Please, this average man, there is no equivalent in our language, I'm afraid. You know, said Halyard. The ordinary man, like, well, anybody, those men working back on the bridge, the man in that old car we passed, the little man, not brilliant, but a good-hearted, plain, ordinary, everyday kind of person. Cash drawer translated. Aha, said the Shah, nodding. Why did you make me read this book out loud? Takaru. What did he say? Takaru, said Castrar. Slave. No, Takaru, said Halyard, speaking directly to the Shah. Citizen. Ah, said the Shah. Citizen. He grinned, happily. Takaru, citizen. citizen, Takaru. No, Tukaru, said Halliard. Castrar suggested, in the Shah's land are only the elite and the Tukaru.
And so that's kind of what his whole subplot is about, is kind of just like, wow, it's so cool that you guys have so many slaves over here. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But going back to what I would say is the main plot of the story, Paul is really unhappy at work. Anita, his wife, is really obsessed with his career and status, think like Lady Macbeth, and she wants him to succeed and get promoted in the company. He hates working in the corporate world, though. Then, his old buddy Ed Finnerty comes back to town for a visit. They worked together a long time ago, but he went to Washington, D.C. for a new job. And he also was somebody who never really meshed well with the corporate lifestyle. And that's part of why Paul enjoyed being around him and liked about him, was the fact that he was kind of like a bad boy. He was anti-establishment. Well, turns out Finnerty is back in town because he has quit his job in Washington, D.C. He says that he cannot stand it anymore. And he kind of also is wanting Paul to agree with him and quit his own job, kind of like as validation of like, oh man, confirm for me that I made the right decision by also making the same decision and following me down this path that I've chosen. But Paul is a coward. And so he's not really ready to take that kind of a plunge and just abandon the career that he has built for himself so far. It does, however, shake him a little bit. He was already like not feeling great about his job. Now he's feeling particularly not great. And it just so happens this was at a relatively bad time because he is about to go to a company dinner at the country club and he's supposed to be giving a speech. And now he's talked with Finnerty. Finnerty has rattled him and he's not sure if he's going to be able to make a good speech. Anita really wants it to go well because both of Paul's bosses, Kroner and Bear, are going to be there, and she wants him to make good impressions on them, specifically because Kroner has already kind of hinted at the fact that he likes Paul, he expects that Paul is going to succeed, and Anita really wants him to lean into that and take it to his advantage to get promoted. This is a point where I'm going to take a bit of a pause to do another quote about Anita and who she is as a person, because she is playing a very specific role in this book.
I don't like that girl. Of all the people on the north side of the river, Anita was the only one whose contempt for those in Homestead was laced with active hatred. She was also the only wife on the north side who had never been to college at all. The usual attitude of the country club set toward homesteaders was contempt, all right, but it had an affectionate and amused undertone, the same sort of sentiment felt by most for creatures of the woods and fields. Anita hated homesteaders.
So Anita kind of sees in homesteaders what her life should have been or was going to be. Like, if it had not been for the fact that she married Paul, she would have been a homesteader, and that thought scares her, and that fear is kind of like translated into her abhorring poor people. She hates poor people.
Y'all know anybody like that?
So Paul gives his speech, and it ends up turning into this discussion where Kroner is spending a lot of time talking about the benefits of mechanization. But as the evening goes on, Finnerty ends up showing up at the country club drunk, and he makes his own speech talking about how automation has actually been a net negative for society because it's made so many people unemployed. Anita, of course, is concerned that this is going to hurt Paul's chances of getting the promotion that he wants, that she wants for him. But turns out Finnerty's not the only one there who is hoping to ruin Paul's chance of getting a promotion. There's also Dr. Shepard, who is Paul's second in command. He also just wants to get the job. He would prefer it if Paul didn't get the job. So he has, behind everybody's back, been going to Kroner and Bear and kind of just planting the seed of doubt of like, Paul's pretty unreliable when it comes to a position of command, isn't he? Maybe you shouldn't trust him as the leader of something as important as the Pittsburgh Works. And when this kind of like behind the back subterfuge comes out, Anita gets pissed off because Paul doesn't really do anything to say that it's untrue. And in fact, he really doesn't seem interested in competing with Shepard for this job at all. There was another part where it was referencing some of the speeches that were being made, and I found this really interesting because it is really driving at the point that the book is trying to make, and it seemed very fresh to me. I mean that part where you say how the first industrial revolution devalued muscle work, then the second one devalued routine mental work. I was fascinated. We then get to the day after the speech. Finnerty shows up to Ilium Works, and he wants to just like walk around the grounds and see the sights. That is against the rules because he's not an authorized person, but Paul sends the order for the guards to let him in anyways because he's an old friend. Shepard hears about this, calls Paul, and threatens that he's going to tell Kroner about the whole situation as like blackmail, and Paul just does not really care. Paul spends a lot of the book not caring about shit, and specifically not caring about Shepard, and this is one of those times. He does not care if Shepard does or does not tattle on him, I guess. That evening, Paul and Finnerty go to a bar in Homestead where they meet a guy called James Lasher, who I didn't bring up earlier. I maybe should have brought him up as one of the important characters, but he is a reverend in the Reconstruction and Reclamation Corps, which is the group that I said before is kind of like a public work corps that people can spend time volunteering for. And he also has a master's degree in anthropology. So he's one of the few people who went to college but still does not actually have one of the technical official jobs of being an engineer or a manager, because it turns out that a degree in anthropology does not qualify you for being a manager or an engineer. Fuck the humanities. As they keep drinking, Lasher gets a little bit more open, and he starts talking about the fact that the societal divide that has been created is going to end up causing a revolution. And he specifically claims that there's going to be a leader or a messiah that comes up and basically presses the charge of the mass of laborers who are out of work that live in Homestead into revolt against the elite upper class. This is an idea that Finnerty likes a lot. And just as a whole, he thinks that Lasher is a really cool guy. Paul also agrees with some of Lasher's points, which kind of helps start shaping his perception of the machines beyond just discontent with his job. Like, up until this point, he's not really shown a tremendous amount of issue with the way society is structured. He just hates his job. Mm-hmm. This is the point where he starts to have thoughts that are relatively class conscious, I guess you could say. And so he's there's a scene where he's thinking and they're talking about machines have put people out of work, but not just put people out of work, they've taken away a person's sense of self-worth and their dignity. Not having work is stripping people of these basic hallmarks of what it means to be a person. People don't feel like they have a purpose anymore, which is a huge theme in the book. Purpose, and what is the purpose of being a human and stuff like that. Later on in the evening, Paul gets so drunk that he's standing on a table and yelling that he will personally lead all of the inhabitants of Homestead over the bridge, saying that he's going to bring the two sides of Ilium together.
Okay, Moses.
Everybody just kind of looks at him, and then he falls off the table and passes out.
Yeah.
We've all been there, you know? When Paul wakes up and goes to leave, Finnerty says that he's actually going to stick around with Lasher. He's not going to go with Paul. It's now the next day. Kroner has invited Paul and Anita over for dinner. Anita is sitting in the living room with Kroner's wife, who everybody just calls Mom. And Kroner and Paul go to the study to have a little private conversation. He starts off by showing Paul all of his guns that he keeps, and then says, hey, that manager job in Pittsburgh, there's only two people that we're considering. You and Fred Garth, who is the manager of the Buffalo Works. But Kroner thinks Paul's the man for the job. He wants to give the job to Paul. Just one thing. Paul's been making some not great decisions lately. Namely, he let Finnerty into the plant. Another problem, and this is something that is kind of news for us, Paul has a government-issued gun, and it was found on the banks of the Iroquois River. It turns out that's because Finnerty stole it and threw it in the river without Paul knowing about it. This is something that could just get Paul arrested, which would not look great for the company, obviously. Paul tries to explain his way out of the corner. Kroner's like, nah. Don't even worry about it. I'm not all that worried. I'm not concerned about it. In fact, even with all that, I still want you to have the job. All you've got to do is become a rat. He wants Paul to join the secret underground society that James Lasher and now Finnerty are part of, and just gather information on them and report it up to the supervisors. Before he can say anything, his other boss, Bear, busts into the room, says, congratulations, we're so glad that you got the promotion. And Kroner's like, no. We haven't ironed out all the details just yet. And so now that kind of leaves Paul in this position where he's got to make the decision. Is he going to rat out his friends in order to get this promotion, or is he better than that? When it comes time to make that decision, Paul has just decided that he's going to quit his job because he doesn't want to turn his back on Finnerty. But he keeps it to himself. He wants to be able to transition from a life where he has his job into a life where he's a homesteader gradually, because he knows Anita is not going to take it well. And so he secretly buys an old farmhouse that has not been touched by machines, wants to become a farmer when he leaves the job. And at the same time, everybody else is getting ready to go on a corporate retreat to the meadows. And it turns out that Paul has been elected to be a captain of one of the teams for the group bonding activities, which is apparently an honor. He is not thrilled about it because it does mean that he just has to go. So goes to the yearly retreat. He and Kroner again sneak off, have a meeting with the most powerful man at the company, Dr. Gellhorn. Gellhorn puts a finer point on the spying thing and identifies the underground group as the Ghost Shirt Society that wants to dismantle the country's use of machinery and change everything that the company stands for and what they're trying to build for. Lasher and Infinity belong to the group, and since Paul knows them, they want to use him as an informer and to infiltrate the group, and to make it believable, they're going to fire him. They've actually already started rumors that he is a saboteur. He tries to quit when they tell him this, and they are just like, that's the spirit, man. Exactly. That's the kind of energy that we want from a young up-and-coming man such as yourself. And they promise to promote him to the new position once he finishes. He is getting kicked off of the island, and what should he see but Anita and Shepard getting a little romantic with one another. Turns out they are having an affair. Anita does not give a shit that Paul knows. She accuses Paul of never having cared for her, and she does not want to spend any time with him anymore. Paul goes back home, goes for a drink in Homestead, but he gets slipped some sort of a drug, knocked out, and when he regains consciousness, he is with Finnerty and Lasher, who tell him about the Ghost Shirt Society and its plan to destroy the country's machinery. Specifically, what they want him to know is that Paul is now going to be the face of the revolution. He doesn't have to do anything. He's just going to be a figurehead for the mission that they are going to enact. Which is now when I was going to, Sydney, have you read the Oath of the Ghost Shirt Society.
Paul's really becoming the Katniss Everdeen. He's like, is this where Suzanne Collins got the idea? And men, by their nature, seemingly cannot be happy unless engaged in enterprises that make them feel useful. They must, therefore, be returned to participation in such enterprises. I hold, and the members of the Ghost Shirt Society hold, that there must be virtue in imperfection, for man is imperfect, and man is a creation of God. That there must be virtue in frailty, for man is frail, and man is a creation of God. That there must be virtue in inefficiency, for man is inefficient, and man is a creation of God. That there must be virtue in brilliance, followed by stupidity. For man is alternately brilliant and stupid, and man is a creation of God.
That idea, and we're kind of getting into some of the modern day context with it, but that quote reminded me a lot of the recent quote from Pope Leo about AI, where he said that AI will not judge between what is truly right and wrong, and it won't stand in wonder, in authentic wonder, before the beauty of God's creation. So be prudent, be wise. So Paul's got the ghost shirt thing under control, and now all of a sudden the police break down the door and it's a raid. Paul tries to run away, but he gets arrested and put in jail. Not too long after, Kroner and Anita come to visit him and say, man, you've been doing a bang-up job. This is so much better than we could have ever imagined. You've been arrested on night one.
You're so good at being an informant.
He actually, instead of getting the promotion to Pittsburgh, is just going to get Bear's old job, because Bear read a letter by the Ghost Shirt Society, decided it made some good points, and he left the company. So his position just became available. Anita is thrilled by the fact that Paul's getting this big of a promotion and has decided she's going to take Paul back. All he needs to do now is talk on the record about what Lasher and Finnerty are planning. Just tell him exactly what the Ghost Shirt Society is up to. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm actually the leader of the Ghost Shirt Society now. I don't know if you guys knew that, but that's my new job title.
I just decided that I am.
He goes on trial, and during one of his court hearings, the Ghost Shirts start a revolt, and they manage to break him out. They cause a bunch of chaos in the streets. Revolutionaries are already working on destroying machines, restarting the social order of life. They totally take over the city, but they find out the movement wasn't necessarily as successful in other cities. So this did not end up being a nationwide movement like they hoped that it would be. That evening, Paul and Finnerty are checking out all of the damage, what all has gone down, and it ended up kind of seeming like it got out of hand. They were a little bit too excited to break stuff, and all of a sudden in the distance you start hearing explosions, and the police announce over loudspeakers that Ilium is going to be put under siege. It's going to be blocked off from the rest of the country unless the leaders of the movement, Paul, Lasher, and Finnerty, turn themselves in. If they don't turn themselves in, we're cutting off the city from the country. At first, Lasher and everybody else is like, hey, you know what? If we have to live without machines, it might be pretty alright. Thinking that it's probably a really cool way to demonstrate to everybody else that it's possible to live without machines. But they look around and they see that other members of the Ghost Shirt Society are already foraging through the broken machinery and rebuilding it into new stuff to make it work again just for the fun of it. And they realize that inevitably their little island of society is going to rebuild itself because the human nature is going to be to build and tinker and work towards progress. So with this in mind, they turn themselves in and just kind of take comfort in the fact that at least they tried to upend the system, even though it didn't come to anything.
Yeah.
And that's Player Piano. Do you think I missed anything, Sydney?
No, that was good. That was hit all the main points. It's really an encouraging book. Like if you're feeling dissatisfied with your life, at least you could try to do something different. Probably won't work, but
I mean, what can we as humans do but try?
what can we assume? It's like I read that book so long ago, and so like I kind of forgot how it's just like it didn't work though.
Yeah. It's we can talk more about it in the analysis and interpretation stuff, but it does paint a somewhat bleak picture where I think that Vonnegut has an understanding that progress is to some extent inevitable because creativity is inevitable. And the book is really interested in how do we balance those two things? How do we grapple with the competing desires for purpose and also for creating things that strip us of our purpose?
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot I want to talk about for sure, especially it's like such a relevant book right now. And makes me wish that Kurt Vonnegut was alive because I'm like, what would he be saying right now? Like full circle for him, first book. And
Yeah. So before we go, we're going to play a quick little game of Have They Read It? The game where we speculate wildly as to whether various notable figures have or have not read the book in question. So, Sydney, I think that we have a couple of times mentioned it. We're definitely going to talk more about it in later episodes, but there's a lot to be said about this book in relation to the current era of AI. So, speaking of the current era of AI, do you believe CEO and founder of OpenAI, the ChatGPT company, Sam Altman, also known as the most evil gay man in America, has read Player Piano?
No. I don't like this is not a Kurt Vonnegut book that I've ever discussed with another human, to be honest. Like,
okay.
So I don't think it's like a more popular one for people to read. Like a lot of people read Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of people have read this. I mean, a lot more people than like your average random book, probably, just because it's a Kurt Vonnegut book, and there are plenty of people who have chosen to read his entire repertoire. But I think you'd have to be a Kurt Vonnegut fan to read this book. I don't think this is going to casually be your first Kurt Vonnegut.
I feel like it's definitely one that's like going to be number 6 if you're ranking his most popular books or something like that, which is pretty far down the repertoire to make it for an author unless you're intentionally looking to read every book that they've read.
And I don't even think this man has read one Kurt Vonnegut book, so so that's the end of my
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So in the field of journalism, AI is a hot topic, period. But like, people have been covering the growth of AI in society and newsrooms. I mean, I'm currently in the process of applying to jobs, and they are talking about AI and how it's used in their newsrooms and what their plan is for it and how can we integrate it into our workspace ethically, and what are your ideas for that in an application there. Anyways, so it's like a hot topic. And I've seen it covered on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Do you think Anderson Cooper has read Player Piano?
Maybe the least evil gay man in America.
Yeah. Do you think the least evil Who did he also did he and what's his name did Rockin' New Year's Eve this year?
They've done it for a couple of years now. I am going to say no, because I think Anderson Cooper maybe only reads nonfiction.
Yeah.
I think he might have stopped reading fiction, like, except for like the top 5 biggest books of the year or whatever. I think he might have stopped reading fiction in like 2012.
He's just got too much to learn. His brain is thirsting for
Does not have enough time. That's the real problem. So, obviously, Player Piano is kind of what I would classify as a techno-dystopia, where it's a future world in which technology has grown rapidly, but the resulting impact on average people is pretty dystopian. And what I would think is another book in that canon is the book Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Do you think author of Ready Player One, Ernest Cline, has read Player Piano?
Maybe? Me?
It's I feel like it's tough because I want to assume every author has read every book. But
they haven't.
The book that he wrote is not necessarily like, I don't think it's alluding to Player Piano. It's not in the same genre necessarily. Like, the only thing that they have in common is that I would call both of them like pseudo techno dystopian in nature.
I mean, I could like see that being something that he read, but I don't. It also, I mean, this book came out, I don't know how old Ernest Cline is, but I mean, it came out in what, 1950 something. Player Piano. So it's, I don't know. Maybe. My answer is maybe.
Okay.
I also want to correct myself about, it's not Rockin' New Year's Eve, it's the CNN New Year's Eve Live.
Oh.
That Anderson Cooper hosts with Andy Cohen.
Gotcha.
Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve is a different thing. I get them confused, to be honest. They're all happening in Times Square. Like,
same spot, same general idea.
all right. This is left field.
Okay. Hell yeah.
There's I just looked up the date, 2004 movie, iRobot.
Yeah.
It's science fiction. It's machines taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And it stars none other than Will Smith.
Sure does.
Do you think Will Smith has read Play Your Piano?
Nope.
No shot.
I think Will Smith has probably watched a lot of movies. And I think that he probably has seen some movies that either inspired or were inspired by Play Your Piano unknowingly. But I don't know if he's a huge reader as a person. Like, I've never heard him. There's some actors that I've heard them talked about as readers, like people who actually regularly are reading different books. I've never heard him mention a book. Not to say that he hasn't. I'm not like a huge Will Smith fan where I listen to every interview, but I'm going to go with no. This feels, I think that he maybe doesn't read a tremendous amount, and if he does, I don't think that this is what he would read.
Sorry. Speaking of AI, this is Google AI's answer to the question, does Will Smith read? And it says yes, he's recently engaged with literature to explore spiritually, including reading the entire Quran, Bible, and Torah to understand their connection. Apparently, wait, I need to find out.
Fuck
yeah. There's a video. He read all three.
I should have guessed that he read some mumbo jumbo spiritual shit. It does not surprise me that he read the Quran, Torah, and Bible.
That's so funny. That's kind of crazy, actually. That's such a feat to read all three of those in their entirety.
I'm 14 and this is deep coded.
Oh, wow. Sorry, guys, don't. This is Google AI. I mean, like, I didn't click on the sources it gave me to further confirm. So, like,
yeah, it's possible that he has not read any of the Quran, Torah, or Bible, but maybe he has. If you're out there and you've read the Quran, Torah, and Bible, comment.
I think that this use of Google AI, which is unfortunately inherent, was important for the context of this episode.
So, with that, if you want to hear more about the context of this episode, be sure to join us next week when we are going to be talking all about the history and series of events that led up to Kurt Vonnegut choosing to write this book, and say, like, what is it that he thought was so important that he had to write a book about it. Before then, thank you so very much for listening, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, leave us a review if you feel so inclined. Be sure to tell a friend about the podcast. Our intro and outro are remixes of the song 48 by Cullah. And Sydney, if all of that engagement is not enough for people, how else can they get a hold of us?
You can follow us. We're allegedly on social media at Instagram, the Satire Fire Pod, POD, and on TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube at the Satire Fire. And follow us, like, comment, send me DM recommendations, tell me what you want to see. There is content coming in the future, and I would love to know what you guys are interested in seeing. So, yeah.
And that is going to do it for us for today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Satire Fire, and don't forget to thank your local librarian. I am Samuel.
I'm Sydney.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
I just about come to the end of the road. Here, I've just about lost patience with you people. You get your ass out into the mountains or someplace, or hide in there and watch that damn tube. But if not, fuck it. I'm done. In fact, my sermon